All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful story. It's all about escalating conflict, some seriously smart strategy, and a moment that completely redefines what it even means to be a community. So let's jump right in. So let's start with a question that really gets to the heart of this whole thing. Is it better to break a rule, even a sacred one, or to save a life? And listen, this isn't some abstract thought experiment. This is the very real, high-stakes dilemma that kicks everything off. Okay, so our story kicks off with a major challenge to authority, and it all goes down during a pretty tense confrontation on the Sabbath. So picture this. It's the Sabbath, the holy day of rest, and Jesus is teaching in a synagogue. There's a man there with a shriveled hand, but he's not the only one getting attention. Jesus' opponents are there too, and we're told they were just watching him. Not with any kind of compassion, but literally looking for an excuse to accuse him of something. You can just imagine how thick the tension was in that room. Now, you might think Jesus would handle this quietly, right? Nope. He does the complete opposite. He looks at the man and says, "Stand up," in front of everyone. See, this is about way more than just a healing. He's intentionally making this a public spectacle, a test case, and he's taking total control of the situation. And then he hits them with this absolutely brilliant, totally unanswerable question. He asks his critics, "So, tell me, which is lawful on the Sabbath? To do good or to do evil? To save a life or to kill?" I mean, it's the perfect trap, isn't it? They can't say do evil, that's ridiculous. But if they say do good, they're basically giving him permission to do the very thing they want to condemn him for. They are completely and utterly cornered. So what do? They say nothing. Complete silence. And that silence is so powerful, you know? It's basically them admitting they've got nothing. It shows they don't have a logical argument, but it also reveals something deeper, what the text calls their stubborn hearts. And this is fascinating. Before he even performs the healing, we get this little window into his emotional state. It says he looked at them with anger and distress. So for him, this isn't some abstract theological game. He's genuinely hurt and frustrated by their coldness, their refusal to see a person in need. It's only after that moment that he turns to the man, tells him to stretch out his hand, and boom, it's restored. Okay, so this one act, this one healing, it has these immediate explosive consequences, and it splits everyone into two camps. You've got his popularity skyrocketing on one side, and on the other, a deadly plot. Two completely opposite fronts are forming right here. And check out how stark this divide is. On the one hand, you've got the religious authorities, the Pharisees. Their reaction? They immediately start plotting how to kill him. But on the other hand, the people, the general public, they start following him in huge numbers. The battle lines are officially drawn. And when I say huge numbers, I mean it. This isn't just a local thing anymore. We're talking about a massive regional movement. People are flocking from all over, Galilee, Judea, Jerusalem, even way down south in Idumea, and from the non-Jewish coastal cities of Tyre and Sidon. I mean, his fame is just spreading like wildfire across the entire region. Well, as you can imagine, these crowds become a bit of a logistical nightmare. It gets so intense, so chaotic, that he actually tells his disciples to get a small boat ready for him, just so he can push off from shore and not get literally crushed by the people all trying to reach him. This chaos, this overwhelming popularity, it's what forces him to make his next move. So think about it. He's facing a death plot from the authorities, and he's being mobbed by these massive crowds. What do? Well, he makes a really strategic move. He realizes he needs structure, he needs a core team, and this is when he appoints the 12. So he goes up on a mountainside, which, by the way, is always a place where significant things happen in these stories, and he calls a specific group out from all of his followers, and he officially appoints 12 of them. And look, this wasn't just some fan club or entourage. They had a very specific three-part mission. First and foremost, just be with him. This was like an apprenticeship, to watch and learn from him directly. Second, they were to be sent out to preach, to basically multiply his message. And third, they were given the authority to act in his name. It's a really clear strategy to delegate and expand his impact, especially with all this pressure building. And here's the lineup. You'll definitely recognize some of these names. Simon, who he renames Peter. You've got the brothers, James and John, Andrew, Matthew the tax collector, and the rest of the crew. And then, of course, the list ends with Judas Iscariot, who the text makes sure to point out is the one who betrayed him. Just a little bit of ominous foreshadowing there.
But here's the thing. Just because he has a team now doesn't mean the conflict goes away. Oh no. In fact, it gets even more intense, and the attacks start to get really, really personal. He's now getting hit from all sides.
And this is where it gets pretty shocking. The religious experts, the teachers of the law from Jerusalem, they come down and make this terrible accusation. They say he's possessed by Beelzebul, another name for the prince of demons. But at the exact same time, you know who else is attacking him? His own family. They're saying he is out of his mind. They literally show up to take him away, to take control of him. Can you imagine being called evil by your enemies and insane by your own family, all at once?
So how does Jesus respond to this accusation of being demonic with just pure, simple logic? He asks them, how can Satan drive out Satan? It doesn't make any sense. He uses these simple analogies, a kingdom divided against itself, a house divided against itself, to show them just how absurd their argument is. A force that's fighting itself is just gonna collapse, right?
But then he takes it a step further. He gives them a really serious warning. He defines this concept, blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, and he calls it an eternal sin, something that won't be forgiven. So what is it? Well, according to him, it's when you see the power of God at work, plain as day, and you deliberately choose to say, nope, that's evil, that's the devil. It's looking at something divine and calling it demonic. And all of this leads to the incredible conclusion of this whole episode. While he's getting attacked by his own family and by the religious leaders, Jesus does something that radically redefines what family and community are all about. So here's the final scene. His family, his mother and brothers, the same ones who thought he'd lost his mind, they show up. But pay attention to where they are. The text says they're standing outside. They send someone else in to get him. They are physically on the outside, separate from the group he's surrounded by. And when someone tells him, hey, your family's outside looking for you, he asks this question that must have just stopped everyone in their tracks. He says, who are my mother and my brothers? He's using this moment, this interruption, to make a huge point. And then he looks around at all the people sitting in his circle with him, his followers, and he says, here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother. I mean, wow. With that one sentence, he creates a brand new definition of family. It's not about blood. It's about a shared purpose, a shared commitment. And that really leaves us with a big question to think about, doesn't it? In a world that can feel so divided, what does it actually mean to build a community that's based on a shared purpose, instead of just the traditional ties we're all used to? That's the challenge this whole story leaves us with. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.